Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company and I no longer have a cast on my wrist.
Woo!
So that got taken off almost, it'll be 2 weeks ago on Wednesday that I got rid of the cast.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
Very nice. No, I know, it sort of was weird because it kind of went quickly in a way. I suppose because it was the first 2 weeks of having it we were trying to figure out shows, weren't we? So
yeah, I mean, because I think that's what I was going to say was because we were there in Edinburgh, and then we were doing performances before you knew it. That was a couple of weeks gone.
So it's gone. And
how is it now?
It's not too bad. I'm having physio now, and I'm being really good about doing my exercises because I'm desperate for it to get back to normal. It does quite well. I've got this is one of the things I've got to do, and it's bending quite well that way. It's the other way that's not quite so. It's not quite so good at, but we're getting there. It's a little bit sore sometimes, but it's fine. I'm confident we'll be back to normal soon. Meanwhile, we've been working on our new show. So this is going to be the new adult show offering for next Edinburgh. The idea is it will premiere at Edinburgh 2025. And we've had 3 official weeks, I think.
Yes, I think we have. I think we've had 3 weeks of working on it properly. I mean, there's always some kind of dreaming, some thought that goes into it beforehand.
Of course,
but yeah, 3 official weeks. Yeah. Did we agree that we're not going to reveal?
I think we did. We're not going to quite. I think some of you probably already know. If anybody came up to us after shows and things, we were more likely to tell you what it's going to be. So some of you probably already know anyway. But for now, we're going to keep the title to ourselves. We've been working.
Maybe you'll guess.
Maybe you will. You never know. Or maybe we'll just give it away by mistake. It's
more
equally
likely
possible.
Yeah.
We have done 2 weeks of writing. So Mark Collier, who has worked with us on a lot of our productions, was with us here in the studio for a fortnight, and we
sat with the source material and went through it and tried to push it, beat it into the shape of a script that we could start rehearsals with. And actually, I was really, really pleased with how it went. I mean, obviously, there remains a lot to be done. And often when we get to rehearsals anyway, things change then because you realise when you get things up on their feet that there are some things that maybe you don't need or things you want to swap around. But nevertheless, the source material is quite challenging for a number of reasons. There's quite an odd chronology to it at times in the way that it deals with the sort of sequence of time in the storytelling. And there's also a couple of other specific challenges to it that I thought were going to be a big problem when we were writing the script or doing the first draft. And actually, maybe because we'd all been considering it, maybe because we all had a few ideas from the very beginning, but I was really pleased with the end result.
I think we were also better at starting than we used to be.
Yeah, that's very true.
I think that it was we wouldn't have approached this particular book years ago. We wouldn't have been ready to. But now I feel like we know what the process is. So we always start with the source material. We take the dialogue out into a separate document. With this one, there were also other certain things. There were diary entries that we took out into another document. These are all clues. And then there were we work with all of those separate things along with the full text to start us off. And I think that where previously we might have got stuck, especially with a text like this, over the kind of way in, we didn't. We just sort of, someone had an idea. I think it was you had. We all had it was an amalgamation of everyone's ideas of how we thought we would have to structure it as a script, as in that we couldn't necessarily completely follow the chronology of the novel.
Yes.
That we would have to pick bits from nearer the end and move them around in order to make it work theatrically in the way that we wanted it to.
Yeah. And
then you had a specific idea which kicked us off, and we, rather than debate it too much, we just decided to give it a go.
And see how it feels. And actually, it stuck pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
It worked out pretty well.
So we spent 2 weeks doing that, which, in fact, it wasn't the full 2 weeks even. We didn't need the full 2 weeks to work on the script. So we'd finished a rehearsal draft by sort of Tuesday, I think it was, of the Tuesday, Wednesday of the second week. And then we started to talk about set and things. So prior to writing, Noel and I had also done some set drawings, which is interesting for me because I was drawing with my left hand.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily, there was a lot of straight lines in the set design, and the app that I used was very helpful in allowing me to do straight lines. So we'd had ideas for set, which we brought then to Mark,
Yes.
and then we mocked up a very quick set model, which you can see here, out of our usual favourite pizza boxes. And we spent a good morning just playing around with the pieces.
Yeah, and it's interesting actually that for all the drawing that you can do, which is also really, really important. I mean, a lot of those key ideas.
Well, it's how you come up with the concept, isn't
Exactly,
it?
yeah. But then to be able to see it in 3 dimensions and to be able to play with what shapes you can make with those objects is also really, really helpful.
Particularly because you get a sense of how wieldy or unwieldy they might be, and how useful or not useful they might be. So we'd come up with this particular shape for this big central piece of set, which will be lit in some way. There's going to be quite a lot of light in this set, which is, we've used light before within the sets. We've got lanterns in Runes and Gulliver. This one's going to have more in it. It needs to, for the story to work.
That's the plan anyway.
Yes, it is. We're not quite sure how yet, but we'll figure it out. So there's this big structure in the middle, which I can't remember how tall we've made it.
So this one here to scale is about 3 meters 10.
Yeah, so that's nice. It's nice and tall. We'll see whether we've taken up too much of the footprint of the stage with the base of it. We're not sure yet. Then we're calling these the skeleton corners. So the idea is that they're a similar shape to the bottom bits of here, and then they can be moved around in any sort of way that you might want. So they configure together to make, areas of the stage or certain shapes. And we've taken some photographs of particular things we want to do, which we'll show you on here rather than us just fiddling around with it, which isn't quite so interesting. There will be more than one of these. Currently there will be 2, and they're deliberately sloped. So that's not a mistake. It's going to be interesting to try and get that to work.
Yes, it will. But we didn't like the look of having any straight
Right
angles
angles.
and straight lines in it.
And then
not straight lines, but kind of.
There will
right
probably
angled
be
stuff.
more of this sort of. This is the representation of a naked bulb on a sort of wire. There will probably be more of the kind of, we're calling them the tentacles, these sort of things that look like everything is attached to this central kind of hub almost. The life, the force of things is sort of being generated from that in a way.
But you can see, and if we have a couple of the set drawings as well to show, you can see, especially with something like this, how difficult it is. Once you've got the initial concept and in a drawing, it's very difficult then to draw these in any particular
unless you're like an
configuration.
architect or something who's really good at technical drawing.
Well,
which
even then, I think
not.
it's difficult to get the perspective, and it's difficult to get a sense of where they are in the space, which is part of what I like about them as a piece of set, is that they do create some quite odd shapes, and they can create some sort of.
I'm hoping they're going to create some nice
perspectives
shadows as well and things like that. This is the representation of one of our usual trunks. In fact, this is a representation of the one that tipped me off it during Gulliver, which I'm still not quite forgiven it for, but there we are. So there'll be 2 of those, we think, for this show, for a certain scene where there needs to be a kind of a bed, and therefore 2 will probably be useful for that.
That's what we're thinking at the moment.
They'll probably have light in them, we think. So this is where we are so far. We've written a rehearsal draft of the script.
Yep.
We've got this kind of idea for the set.
Lovely Dan Melrose has started doing a little bit of music as well, so we've got a bit of music coming in, which is always helpful to get the imagination going, and
Helps
that's
with
an ongoing,
atmosphere
it does,
all that sort of thing.
an ongoing conversation as well, as we sort of go back and forth with him, kind of going, well, we've got this idea and we'd like to try and echo something like this.
Got these pieces as well, which we think will sort of plug in to parts of the set in some way. And then we have also, so this week we're going to be making some actual prototype pieces of set, in order that next week Mark's coming back to work with us again for a week where we can do some research and development on the show. So that'll be when we will play with the prototype set and see whether some of the pictures that we've made with this will physically work.
Yeah, yeah. And it's something of a luxury to be able to do that. We haven't always had the time or the resources.
No, but we have with the more recent one. So with
Well, yeah,
it
that's what I was
started
gonna
with
say
Gulliver,
was-
didn't it?
And it proved so valuable.
And then Christmas Carol we did it for.
Yeah, that if we possibly can, it's just incredibly helpful to have, without the pressure of knowing that you're eating up the rehearsal time, just have a few days to play then with some prototype versions of this. So you go kind of the next step up in terms of scale.
Just meant
and
that,
play
like,
with a few shapes and come up with a few ideas. And it also means, as I think you were going to say, when you get to some of those real kind of either the sort of important images or the big problem moments in the show, you're not coming to it with an empty page. You've maybe got a couple of ideas, a couple of suggestions, a couple of solutions.
Which has just been invaluable, hasn't it, with the more
really
recent shows where the sets have been a little bit more complicated and the stories have been a bit more, wide-reaching or whatever. So that's what we're doing this week in preparation for next week. So it's all going very nicely so far.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's always a really fun time. It starts to get a little bit more difficult now as you try to bring this into reality.
It's a sort of how now, which in fact is this is now where Noel comes into the, you're the one who's head scratching trying to figure stuff out. I'm not particularly brilliant at working out how things will be made. I just want them to be a certain way, which is really
and
helpful.
said after Christmas Carol, having said I'd never make a door with no right angles again, I feel like there's a lot of
Yes, there are no right angles
a lot of
basically
shapes with no right angles
in this
here.
set, so that's fun. But it's going to be worth it. I think
I'm
it's
sure
going to
it
look
will. Yeah.
great. So yeah, that's us for this week. As always, if you are enjoying the vlogs, please do give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, leave any comments, questions or anything like that you want. Not what is the show title, because we won't answer that yet.
Yeah. But if you've got a guess, then go ahead.
I mean, go ahead. And then if you are interested in seeing Casting the Runes again, or you haven't seen it yet, then we are doing some Casting the Runes shows across Halloween. They are all up on our website. There's only a handful of performances. One is already sold out, the one in Bath. There aren't any tickets for that, but you can join a waiting list, I believe. And then there are, there's sort of spread around a bit. So do have a look and see if there's something near you that you would like to come to.
Otherwise, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.